All right, let's get into it.
Is there a
No,
layer below the trash for Temple of Florida Atlantic?
you're matching arguably the unluckiest team in the country in Kansas and arguably the luckiest in BYU.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Week 12 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey. Joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Colin Wilson. I had to just double check to make sure that was right. Week 12. Seeing some of these teams have already played 10 games. Season is flying by, but still a lot of college football to be played. The college football playoff, bowl season, one of our favorites on this podcast. So we are still right in the thick of it, but cherish these games. Season's flying by. Even the Maction games. Fortunately went 2-0 this week at Akron in a monsoon, which was something to watch. And you had a good day yesterday, getting the benefit of a Mac inadvertent whistle.
Well, that was good too. That Miami of Ohio, that call for that under. I mean, if you had over 47 and a half or 46 and a half and Kent State picks the ball up, runs it back, and it gets called back, if
For an inadvertent whistle.
or an inadvertent whistle, which not a lot of people hear, typical Maction shit going on. That was really good. And then last night also, like banging Ohio when they were down and EMU was trying to get a second score up on them. Ohio fell all the way down to pick them live and got in on that. And then they just completely boat raced EMU out of the building. So it's been a good 2 weeks of action for you and I so far. I hope we can keep it up next week because you and I have had seasons where Tuesday, Wednesdays have been pretty bad, but it's been okay for us this year.
Not me. Mac's always been my cup of tea. Bad Saturdays for sure, though. All right. We have a lot to get to today. We'll get to our marquee games. We'll get to our rundown. We'll get to some quarterback injury news. It's Tin Horn weekend.
Yes.
We'll talk about, we'll mention those games quickly. I don't know if there's much there. We'll get to some trash, as always. And then we'll go 3 and out. We'll do some Friday Night Lights. And we'll talk about our favorite underdogs, as always. But before we get started, we've had a lot of people reach out looking for long shot bets. They're in vogue right now. Big parlays, same game parlays, kind of stuff we don't cover a lot on our shows. But I get it. A ton of you out there love those, and they aren't always easy to find. So myself, Colin, this includes round robins too, which I do partake in. Myself, Colin, our other experts here at Action created a new account on the app just for these kinds of bets. It's called Parlay Express. So if you're interested in long shot bets, sort of couch change stuff, open the Action app and follow Parlay Express. That'll be all of our experts' long shots. It'll be noted who bet what, like the college football round robins, for example, coming from us. And it's all under one account. We'll still be tracking all of our stuff ourselves, as always. But Parlay Express is one central location for all the long shots. So just make sure if you're interested in that, go to the app and follow Parlay Express. Obviously, all free. All right, let's get to I got to clear our board here.
Somebody, oddly enough, contacted me on Instagram, a place I don't really expect to have a lot of back and forth on college football, and told me the Board of Transparency is the greatest addition to the podcast this year. I was like, that's really nice. I bet it came through Instagram. It was a little bit of a shock, not on Twitter.
I've gotten great feedback on it as well. And especially just at the end, transparency. We always preach that here. Show you how we're doing. There's always going to be ups and downs, but the just summarizing for people, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. Like the games that we do agree on at the end, which we always do at the end of 3 and out. So, I've always had people tell me that they're writing down, our producer even did that. He even does that. He writes down the games that we both like. But now we have it all right here for you on a board. The games you agree on so far, 24-13 against the spread. So those are at 65%. Head to head, I'm up 3-2. And trash, I'm 12-5. That's 70%. Collins are 1-1.
Thank you. Thank you, Owls.
Yeah, brutal one. Kennesaw State in overtime. Luckily I had we went head to head, not on this board, but I had Ball State. Oh man, that was a roller coaster. Luckily they got the ball first and kicked the field goal. What
Covered
a
every
meltdown
number.
by Ball State.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. We have two marquee matchups this weekend. It's a weekend where the top four teams are all on the road. Top four teams in the AP poll are all on the road. Don't see that often. I don't know if we're going to see any upsets if you look at the projected spreads, but an interesting note nonetheless. But all right, let's start in the SEC. Tennessee at Georgia. Georgia's a very interesting team as far as the college football playoff is concerned. With all this talk about like, hey, Penn State hasn't played anybody. If Georgia suffers its third loss, like they're basically out. But they'd have a win at Texas in dominant fashion, a dominant win over Clemson on a neutral-ish field, and they have the number one strength of schedule in the country. I mean, they have played a gauntlet all season with their two previous losses coming against Ole Miss and Alabama on the road. There's a lot of injury speculation in this Tennessee-Georgia game around Nico. A couple people have come out publicly and said he's not going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Heupel has said he feels good about it. You know, he left last week's game. They said it was precautionary and he didn't come back. But it's not like that game was completely out of hand.
What did you think about the hit? I thought he took a pretty good hit off the grass, his head.
Yeah, for sure. But Heupel also has an incentive to not disclose anything, right? And for the college football playoff rankings, for preparation for Georgia preparing, but we just don't know. And there's some people saying, I'm hearing some people say he's going to be out. I hear some people say that they don't know yet. I hear some other people say that they think he's going to play. I don't know. If he doesn't play, and he hasn't been great, this offense it's been broken all season. If he doesn't play, you're down to a senior, fifth-year senior walk-on who transferred in from UCF because he was familiar with Heupel's system in Gaston Moore. Nico's been pretty bad, but that would be a drop-off for sure. I played Georgia in this game. I laid 9. It's at 10 now. I wouldn't go any higher than that. But so the Georgia offense, I've been saying for weeks, the Georgia offense is broken, just like Tennessee's. And it is. Their offensive line has injuries. Mm-hmm. They can't really get their run game going. The wide receiver room, who they're throwing to, is just not as talented as we've seen in Georgia. Carson Beck looks like he's prime seeing ghosts Sam Darnold throughout the season. So the offense is bad. Why did I lay it with Georgia? Well, I think it's going to come down, number one, the spot. So this is their season at home, at night. Number two, the uncertainty at quarterback. But most importantly, it's the defense. I think that this defense is going to win this game for them. And ultimately, they're going to cover because of it. I think that they can hold Tennessee to 10 to 14 points, and I think they can get the 24. We've seen the peak of Georgia and this defense. This Tennessee offense, they can't run the ball anymore in league play. Their offensive line has issues. The wide receiver room has been underwhelming, and the quarterback play has not been great, and you might not get Nico here. And who knows how to shut down this Tennessee offense? Kirby Smart. That's all they've done since Heupel has arrived in Knoxville. Schulman and Smart have shut them down. 2021, 41-17 Georgia. 2022, 27-13 Georgia. Last year, 38-10 Georgia. Two of those games were in Knoxville. And some of those Tennessee offenses were much better than the current version that we see today. And you might have a backup quarterback in there. So I think this Georgia defense, how much more motivation does Georgia need? They already have 2 losses, coming off a bad loss at home against Tennessee. You're 1 spot out of the college football playoff after finishing 1 spot out last year. I think this defense shows up. I think they shut down Tennessee. I think they win by double digits. And if you look, the strength of schedule disparity is massive in this game. Georgia, already talked about it. Number 1 most difficult schedule in the country. Tennessee, outside the top 50. Who has Tennessee played? The one win that they can hang their hat on was Alabama at home. In an ugly one. It was clear Jalen Milroe was not 100%. Playing Alabama with a banged-up Jalen Milroe is a completely different animal than the Alabama we saw out of the bye with a healthy Milroe. Look at the rest of the Tennessee schedule. The non-conference ended up being an absolute joke. We've seen NC State and Oklahoma since. Their other wins were against an FCS team in Kent State, who finally had a lead, but still hasn't won a game. And then in conference play, their other games, they should have lost at Florida at home. Then they beat Mississippi State, and then an injury-ravaged Kentucky team. They haven't met odds makers' expectations in any of those games. So back against the wall, Georgia at home, playoff line, lives on the line. Kirby knows how to shut down this offense. Might not get Nico. For what it's worth, Kirby 32-18 against the spread, 64% against ranked opponents, 13-6 as a non-road favorite of a touchdown or more, covering by over 10 points per game. I like Georgia here.
Yeah, if you took a 7-quarter sample for Georgia against Texas and 3 quarters against Alabama, this is an easy national championship looking team. The problem is every other quarter against SEC play has been a little trouble.
But you can say that about Tennessee too.
Oh, I could say a lot of things about Tennessee. I could keep going about Tennessee. So I agree with you on every point that you made. I have not dipped into Georgia because I thought maybe there was a better angle at attacking this game, because if Nico's not going to go, which the people that I trust the most are saying that he's not going to play. Now, you know how concussion protocol is going to go. They're going to give him a test on Friday night. They're going to give him a test on Saturday morning. He will dress. I would assume if he's even not allowed to play, that he would do warmups and then just walk off the field. That's usually how these things work. And the point spread is going to fluctuate until we find out exactly what his status is. But why in the world would Heupel ever give up any information and give Kirby Smart and Schumann any information about what they should prepare for? They won't. So this game really should come down to Dylan Sampson and the ground game for Tennessee on the offensive side. Georgia's defense.
He got banged up, though, last week, too. So he was dealing with an injury.
He did. And the other bad news is that Georgia dominates power run concepts. There's 66% success rate on defense against that, which Tennessee runs a lot of. And the defense for Georgia is finally healthy. Mykel Williams, full health, no availability report. Linebacker Smell Munden got his first bit of action against Ole Miss after going out against week 5 with an injury to Alabama. So there are a lot of positives for Georgia, like you said.
I think what you're getting to, which I also like and didn't mention, is you're eventually going to get the Tennessee team total under.
I do like the Tennessee team total under. I like
that. Okay.
I bet first half under because I still have issues with the Georgia offensive line. This Tennessee pass rush needs to be acknowledged in this game. They are a force. It is not a joke. And Stuck, I think after you and I talked all preseason about being scared of this Tennessee secondary that got wiped in the first and second string, they're actually like top 40 in coverage per PFF. Like they're not as bad as I thought they would be on the back end. So
the problem is, though, and I didn't even mention Tennessee lost to Arkansas. The problem is who Tennessee's played nobody. Which passing offense have they played that scares you? They played Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arkansas. And by the way, Arkansas had a backup quarterback who had the game-winning drive. That was their loss.
Was all on the ground.
A banged-up Alabama, a banged-up Milroe. And then in non-conference, Oklahoma without all the receivers and that offensive line, NC State. they haven't really played. So I do think that their secondary is vulnerable. But my concern is, can Georgia block? And Kirby came out and said like the guard situation is a disaster with all the injuries, and
Yeah.
they're like running out of guards. It's not ideal. That's what could blow up this game is the
Yes.
Tennessee defensive line.
Yeah, so the defensive line is going to, I think, have their way with this Georgia offensive line for a while. 37 of the 80 pressures on Carson Beck this season have come in the last 3 games. It is being cranked up on their schedule on the amount of pressures that Beck is seeing. Left tackle Ernest Green is fighting through injuries right now, sinking run and pass blocking grades. Right guard Xavier Trust has been an absolute disaster in a couple games from a grading perspective. Center Jared Wilson, uncharacteristically, has had some huge problems with pass blocking. Beck, over his last 12 quarters, 8 turnover-worthy plays, 0 big-time throws. He is not connecting the dots, and every time he gets pressure, it's a disaster. James Pierce, more than double any other Tennessee player in pressures, and he's 3rd nationally in creating pressure from the edge. He gets a complimentary matchup against Georgia's left tackle. So I took first half under. I agree with you. I like Georgia. I think if the number was closer to a 7, I think the number is also important too, because I make this game 5.5 with Nico healthy and playing. I think it's already factored into the market that he's concussed and not playing. So I think if the number was a little bit lower, I could be talked into it. But with the struggles Georgia offensive line has and what Carson Beck has done with pressure, I'm just going to opt for a first half under, and I'll look for a live spot on the dogs.
Yeah, I'm just trusting the defense. I'm trusting Smart. And I'm trusting the spot here. Yeah, that the offensive line, I mean, Green, he's dealing with like a groin issue, so that's why his production has dipped a bit. That's the matchup to watch, but I also think the Georgia defensive line is going to dominate this Tennessee offensive line. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of different opinions in this game, so I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, that the line keeps fluctuating, and then you add in the uncertainty of Nico with different rumors out there, and there will be updates. But Georgia, we've seen their peak, but then we've seen a pretty big sample size of them looking underwhelming, but they played the number 1 strength of schedule. Tennessee has not looked great most of the year, and they've played a bad strength of schedule. You're going to have, there's not many great data points for Tennessee. So you're going to have some conflicting opinions especially for this time of the year, for 2 teams in the college football playoff. You're going to have conflicting opinions. You don't really get, I don't think you would, most matchups of this caliber that you necessarily wouldn't have than we do here with all of those factors at play. Let's go to our second marquee game, Kansas at BYU. BYU still undefeated, in control of their college football playoff destiny. This game will pit the get line sitting around 2.5, total 56.5. This will be the late night game, 10:15 Eastern on ESPN. I played Kansas. I like it. Anything 3 or better. I think they win the game. My one concern for Kansas is, I mean, this team is rolling right now. And this match is you're matching arguably the unluckiest team in the country in Kansas and arguably the luckiest in BYU. I mean, BYU should have lost at home to Utah and Oklahoma State. 2 teams that might not make a bowl. I mean, Oklahoma State's not. Utah might not. Talk about them in a bit. And Kansas, if you a couple bounces go the other way for each of these teams, Kansas could be in first place in the Big 12 or playing for a spot in the title game. And BYU could have a couple losses and be completely out of it. But sometimes that's the way the ball bounces. My one concern for Kansas here, I mean, their offense is rolling, absolutely rolling out of the bye. Daniels is playing at like a Heisman level. That offense is right now is just unstoppable. And what can BYU not stop? The run game and mobile quarterbacks. We saw that with Ollie Gordon and Garrett Rangel. What do you think Jalen Daniels and a really good backfield of Kansas is going to do? And then that's going to set up everything downfield. The Kansas the run D is bad, but BYU, I know they're a little better with LJ Martin. It's not a great rushing team. They're not overly efficient. You're going to be relying on Retzlaff to chuck the ball here. He's been getting lucky. The turnovers are going to come. I mean, even the fumbles last week, 2 fumbles fall right back into his hands. And you're going to be throwing at 2 really good corners, Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant, who Kobe Bryant will get drafted. I think they're going to force him into a mistake or two. And just to go back to the luck, I mean, you look at these records, BYU 9-0. Well, they're 4-0 in one possession games. They also had a ridiculous win over Kansas State where they had like 4 non-offensive touchdowns. Kansas 0-5 in one possession games. So I think this is a really good matchup for Kansas. Mentioned their rushing attack. They're 6th in EPA per rush. BYU, their defense, 106th in that department. So really good matchup. This Kansas team is rolling. And they're motivated. Obviously, be motivated this game. Win out, go to a bowl. They're well coached. Big coaching advantage here. The turnovers are coming for Retzlaff. He has 18 touchdowns with 7 interceptions, but a 1-to-1 big-time throw to turnover-worthy play ratio. BYU plus 10 turnover margin on the year. They've recovered 70% of their fumbles. They're also 16 of 20 on 4th downs. Like, the regression is coming. Sataki, for what it's worth, as a field goal favorite or more, he's 8-15 against the spread at home, 0-9 over his past 9. My one concern for Kansas is I don't think Bryce Cabledew, their stud left tackle, is going to play. Got hurt at the end of last game. Calvin Clemens, he does have some experience, but he's nowhere close to the caliber of Cabledew. I don't know if he's definitely out, but I would assume he is. BYU starting right tackle, Braden Keim, he got hurt late against Utah, so that's something worth monitoring. And BYU could potentially get their center back, and Connor Pay has missed the past few. He was on the depth chart this week. So the offensive line injury news could work against Kansas, but I still like the Jayhawks. I think they get this done, and wouldn't be shocked if they beat Colorado at home next week too. I'll probably be on them there. This is a team I'm riding. Ride or die through the end of the season. So you're not Kansas State, Iowa State, even some of the other teams. You're not done yet. This Big 12 race is not over. And that's because Kansas has a say, and Colorado loses every imaginable tiebreaker because their strength of schedule inside the conference is a joke. So they lose every tiebreaker possible. So Colorado needs to win out. And BYU, by the way, if they go to Arizona State. If they lose 2 games, their conference schedule's a joke. They lose all the tiebreakers too. There's a world where if Kansas keeps rolling, Scatterboo goes off against BYU. We know they can't defend the run. That game's in Tempe, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance we end up with an Iowa State, Kansas State in the Big 12 title. That's not out of the realm of possibility. I like Kansas here. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I agree with you on all the points. I think first of all, I think the game should be a pick. The Big 12
like 1.
Yeah, the Big 12 referees have a decision to make here because
oh god, I forgot. I didn't even mention that.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep BYU undefeated, or you can help Kansas out and get another team in your conference to a bowl, right? I mean, Kansas has to get to 6 wins here. Their backs are against the wall. So who are the Big 12 refs going to side with? We'll have to see after what happened in Lubbock last week and what happened in Provo. So we'll see. The ground attack has produced a 67% success rate, 4 explosives and minimal stuffs against the Iowa State defense last week for Kansas. Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels are just electric on the ground, like you said.
Isn't it also really impressive what they did against Houston?
Yeah, and Houston's hot.
Houston's defense, and I mean, Houston's been they win every game. That's double-digit dogs. But they destroyed Houston. Houston's defense is really good.
Yeah, and you were mentioning maybe a possible injury that could affect Kansas on the offensive line. I would combat that and say that BYU defensively is outside the top 90 in line yards and pass rush. So whether it's pass or run for Kansas, I don't know if BYU can expose that. We'll see. But what we do know is that Kansas is up to 3rd in line yards in the country, which means the offensive line is doing great work in building holes for both Neal and Daniels and finishing drives. Listen, I don't know. Maybe we reassess Andy Kotelnicki and what we think of him. Right now, they're 4th in the country in offensive finishing drives. They average 5 points, and they've had 49 trips into into scoring territory past the 40-yard line against opponents. So Kansas is really lighting it up in a lot of aspects. The BYU defense has allowed Utah a 60% success rate on the ground over 30 rushing attempts. That tells you how the BYU is not ready for this Kansas attack on the ground. And then you look at Brandon Rose. I mean, Brandon Rose ended with 55 yards on the ground. The freshman quarterback for Utah was a threat against this BYU rush defense. I mean, that complimented Micah Bernard, who averaged 4.5 yards per carry for Utah. So Kansas should absolutely feast here if you got props. I would certainly say something for Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal. And then the BYU offense has been based on pass explosives. They've been about mid FBS and efficiency. So what you're looking for Kansas is maybe stop the explosives. I'm not sure they can. They're 70th in defense and pass EPA. Opponents have been able to get deep on them, but Retzlaff is not accurate whatsoever. I wish I had something for the Kansas secondary to say that they're going to be able to stop this madness Retzlaff passing where it's all over the place, but they're 95th in created contested catches. So I do
They're
think
going to get I think they're going to get an overdue mistake or two. I mean, they do have two good
there's a ton of
corners.
One or two. What are you talking about?
Brian and Dotson, they can get a pick here.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant pick 6, calling it.
If we don't, then BYU in their first bowl game is going to have 17 turnovers. It's coming. I don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. I agree with you, Kansas. I do think there's a little bit of voodoo still in play because Kansas secondary is not showing the numbers to create contested catches, but we're on Kansas all the way here.
Retzlaff, fine. He makes his own contested catches. Like that's the all right. All right. So your first half under. I like Georgia. We both like Kansas. In an ideal world, actually, no, because I want Iowa State to get the Big 12 title, even though I don't think they can win. But in an ideal world, we keep this BYU charade going. And this is the luckiest versus unluckiest team. So BYU probably wins by 1 on like a walk-off Hail Mary. All right. Let's get to the rundown. Oregon at Wisconsin. Oregon is laying 14.5 here. Wisconsin off of the bye. Does this line come down to 14? I assumed it would. I haven't checked. Total sitting at 51.5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly 14s across the board now. I mean, look, it was under a touchdown against Penn State when Wisconsin was hosting Penn State. I don't think that there's over a touchdown difference between Penn State and Oregon. So maybe this is a bit high. I don't know. Oregon probably still not at full strength on offense. You have something here. I would lean Wisconsin, but probably stay away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I make the game 14, so I've been off of it all week. I want to bet Wisconsin. I just have a hard time believing that Oregon is going to make all of these trips. And I mean, what are we watching? Gladiator footage. We're waiting for Michigan fans to pile out so we can rub it in their face and score another one. Like we won this huge game against Ohio State at home. Like there have been so many emotional hurdles. And Dan Lanning's team continues to cross all of them. And when is the hangover coming? This is college football. This isn't, it is professional now, but at some point, these college teams lay an egg, even the best ones, right? Look at everybody in the SEC. And so I'm just kind of wondering when it's going to happen for Oregon. Now, you look at them offensively, there's nothing really where Wisconsin has something they can hang their hat on and say, we can stop you from doing this. They do have great coverage grade, top 30 in coverage grades. They are top 25 in limiting quality drives. But at the same time, Oregon can attack you in places that you can't defend. Wisconsin can't defend the rush. Jordan James is on a limited count. If you're talking about load management, if you want to...
Yeah, James only had 1 carry in the second half. He got beat up. Birch also got hurt. And then Tez Johnson will probably still be out. And so they're not...
they're limited.
Yeah, Bedford is still out.
And this is why I have such a hard time handicapping Oregon from here on out, because Jordan James is going to play, but his snap counts are going to be extremely limited until they get to the Big Ten championship game. So how do you look at these numbers and cross-reference them against each other and think that Lanning's he's giving everybody that has value on this offense, they're all on limited snaps until they get to the big boy. So now you're heading into Camp Randall. To me, I think this is either backdoor cover. I think Wisconsin's got enough in them to cover in this game. Offensively, we'll have to see what they can do against this defense. Where you want to push them around is on the ground. I think Wisconsin should be able to do that, at least from a line yards perspective. It says they are. Nothing explosive is coming out of this offense. Generally, quality drives, they're 96. That's going to be bad against Oregon. So I have a hard time making a case for how Wisconsin's going to score. But I do know that Oregon's players are on a limited snap count. And I don't know.
Harper, I should have said their guard is still out. I mean, Bedford has been out for a while, but Harper won't play here either. So, and you look, that offense wasn't crisp last week against Maryland.
Right.
Without Tez Johnson's a big loss, not having him. Yeah, I mean, I think they can get Tawi Walker going here. That's like when their offense is at its best.
That's when they were the best.
Against an Oregon run D that's a bit vulnerable. It's Wisconsin or nothing. And maybe I'll play it small. Need at least 14 though.
Yeah, if Maryland can produce methodicals against you, that signals a little bit of a problem. Maryland had 23% methodical drive rate last week. They had 13. What, they have 3 or 4? They had 4 methodical drives. They doubled the national average of methodical drives last week, and that is not Maryland's forte. So that's why I've just been paused all week on this Oregon thing.
Utah at Colorado. Man, this is I was surprised. I upgraded Colorado a lot. I'm trying to they've been a tough team for me to power rate. I've talked about how their defensive coordinator's been great. Their offense is obviously super talented. I was like, man, this line's going to be too high, and I'm going to show value on Utah. But I made it 10.5. Colorado's sitting 11.5 point favorite, total 45.5. I actually don't mind the under. The Colorado defense is playing much better. Not sure the market's fully caught up there. I don't know and Utah's defense, I think, will show up.
Yeah.
Utah's defense can, if you look at who's Colorado played from a defensive perspective that you're scared of, right? They played Texas Tech, Cincy, Arizona, Kansas State, who beat them, UCF. Like, none of these teams, they can't get after the quarterback. That's like how the Colorado offensive line's playing better. But I think Utah's defensive front can get after Sanders, create a lot of negative plays. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball here. So I think the Utah defense will show up. But maybe they don't. This is a tough spot. Like you lost that heartbreaker to BYU. Where are they at mentally? Can Whittingham get them up here? I think he can. I mean, it's Colorado. Like, you're trying to end their season, all the hype. I think they'll show up here. So I kind of the under is taking a bit of money. I still like it above 45 because what's Utah going to do on offense? Rose out for the year. Kuthi out for the year. You're going back to Wilson, who's just atrocious. And this Colorado defense is playing well. They also make good adjustments. So I would look at the under. I have nothing from a side perspective, but I do think the Utah defense shows up here. But it's a question. Where's Utah mentally? What do you see here?
I took the first half under 23.5. I took that early in the week. There'll be a full write-up on Action Network. Dion came out in his presser and said, I love the kickoff time of this game. I did not want it at night against Utah. I mean, 11 a.m. What time is that for Utah? I mean, that's a body clock 9 a.m. kick for Colorado. It's a 10 a.m. kick. I mean, these big noon games have happened in Colorado. I don't think they've happened that much for Utah since Fox has kind of taken over that time slot. So from an offenses getting started perspective, this game's
I didn't even realize that this game is at noon. What the?
It's so early. That's why early this week I was like under the first half. Whenever the first half numbers come out Monday night, Tuesday morning, I'm going to hit the under on the first half because hangover for Utah after that really late game in the Holy War, big noon kickoff. Brandon Rose is out. Isaac Wilson, who I think could have started last week, but I think Whittingham just wanted him to sit it out. And then you go with what the handicap was against the Holy War against Retzlaff. Utah is still number 1 defensively in the nation in creating contested catches. That is a huge thing to have against Travis Hunter, Wester, Jimmy Horn's not there, but Shedeur Sanders, that whole trio of the passing game, Utah being number 1 in contested catches. I will take the first half under here. And I think Colorado eventually wins this game, but they have been, by the way, if you want to go to the scoring splits, Colorado's been ridiculous in the third quarter, like one of the best defensively and one of the best offensively in third quarter. So I think if the Colorado bet's going to come for me, it's going to come at halftime.
Yeah, their defensive adjustments have been tremendous all year under Livingston. Tulane at Navy. Big game for Tulane. in the American for their college football playoff hopes. They've been a wagon. I've tried to fade them a couple times this year to no avail. What do you got here? Tulane
Yeah,
sitting, let's see, up to 7, 52.5.
yeah, the number I think is way too high. Like I make this game 3, and I think it's all based upon the health of Navy at their skill positions, specifically maybe Horvath. I mean, the Tulane defense is chock full of, seniors, fifth year, sixth year players. They've seen the triple option a billion times in their life. They have a top 20 rushing success number on defense. They're 27th in line yards. They're the top 30 in stuff rate. I don't have a problem with them stopping the Navy offense. And whatever the triple version is for Brian Newberry these days, whether they're popping it out and they're running, the Delaware wing tee, I just don't see Tulane's defense having issues with it. Tulane is a senior dominated offense, even back to the Willie Fritz days. They've seen the triple option a billion times. They have the numbers when it comes to rushing success rate defensively. Stuff rates in the top 30. Line yards are 27th. They're in the top 30. Rushing success in the top 20. This is also a team that's top 25 in quality and finishing drives. And I think the number is completely boosted by the fact that Navy has injuries on the offensive side of the ball. The more that you get that Delaware wing tee offense on tape for Navy, the better teams have been at defending it. You look at Notre Dame, it was a bludgeoning from the opening kick. And I think more that you have that on tape, it benefits defenses. And Tulane right now, under John Summerall, who is quickly flying up radars for head coaches. I know it's on Arkansas's list. I like Tulane in this game. I just think the number's too high, but I believe it's injury related to the Navy offense.
Yeah, Horvath dealing with that thumb injury, but didn't impact him last week against USF, who was dead to me. I don't have much there. I think the line is close to fair. If it gets above 7, I might look at Navy, but not rushing to bet against this Tulane team because I can't catch up to how good they are, and they just keep covering. And the Navy defense certainly has questions. Not sure they can really slow down this Tulane attack. Virginia at Notre Dame. I got nothing here. I'm close to market. I thought I was gonna be back on my boy Calandria. I'll be doing that next week when he beats your SMU boys.
Oh boy.
Notre Dame 23, 50.5 here. You have something here?
Yeah, I took Notre Dame at 20. It's obviously
You're fading Calandria again.
Yeah, I am. Listen, first off, this is a beauty pageant. Notre Dame is one of our beauty pageant contestants. We're all jockeying for seeding between 5 and 11. Notre Dame's one of those characters. Defense is number one in the country in defensive passing success rate. They're also number one in stopping the explosive pass. You could argue what passing offenses has Notre Dame faced. I think they'll be fine against Virginia. And Virginia, they've had some success on offense running the ball. They're top 40 in line yards with Kobe Pace, who transferred in from Clemson. But yeah, I just don't think that's going to be in the script once Notre Dame has like a 2-possession lead. Like you're not going to turn around and hand the ball off to Kobe Pace. You're going to let Calandria go back into what he was last year, which is ADOT was like 11 yards per attempt. It's just going to be 50-yard bombs all the way. And Notre Dame is completely suited on the back end to take care of that. So I wouldn't be scared of the 22.5. I think Notre Dame's in a beauty pageant and they need style points.
LSU at Florida. This is an awful spot for LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the surface, your season, it's not technically over because there are scenarios where LSU gets to the SEC championship game in crazy tiebreakers. And then obviously if they win the SEC, they would go to the college football playoff and get a bye. So their season isn't over, but it's got to kind of feel that way after last week. Now you're going to Florida. So I had this spot circled for Florida. The reason I haven't bet it, one, DJ Lagway's status. I think he's trending towards playing.
Yep.
He's gotten some practices in. Two, just the rest of the injury report for Florida. It's not great.
Nope.
But, I mean, just the defensive backfield. Even, I mean, they already lost Wilson for the year. Badger's questionable. Montrell John. I mean, you could go on and on with their injury report. But with Lagway in this spot, should be able to hit his explosives with his deep passes against LSU. So, assuming to get just a couple Lagway's in there, I'd look at Florida. Probably my round robin, just because of the uncertainty in the spot. Do you like Gators here?
I do. And then I got a little bit of a pause once the availability report came out on Wednesday night. Look, We'll start off with why I like Florida. I was easy to bet them early in the week. Now I'm kind of holding on for dear life. After I want this availability report means a lot, and I'm going to have to step away from family dinners when it comes out tonight, Friday night. There's a couple names on there I'm really got my eyes on. But we'll start off with LSU. I mean, they committed 6 turnovers their last 2 games against Alabama and Texas A&M, who each averaged 40 points. If you combine those scores, 40 points against the Tigers D. LSU is going the wrong direction on defense. And really, it's all been based on mobile quarterbacks. Milrow, 185 on the ground. Marcel Reed comes in mid-game, has 3 rushing touchdowns. You go back earlier in the season, Lenora Sellers, 88 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground against LSU. DJ Lagway is critical to this game. He's listed as questionable, but people around the program say that he's absolutely going to play. I think they're trying to keep it under wraps a little bit. I projected as a pick with DJ Lagway and 4.5 with Warner. So even if he doesn't play, I still think there's wiggle room in this number. I think it's exactly where it should be if he doesn't play. Now, the offensive line, there's some names we got to keep track on. Damian George Jr. on the offensive line, he's questionable to return. Montrell Johnson, there are other running back options. Katie Daniels should be healthy. Jaden Baugh has been a great red zone option. Those will be available no matter if Lagway is available there to play or not. Really, it's the corner position. Devin Moore and Justin Marshall did not play last week against Texas. It was
a disaster.
It was the biggest handicap of the week for me with the Texas team total over, and it cashed before halftime. And that was the absence of Devin Moore and Justin Marshall at corners where some true freshmen tried to fill in on the spot. Devin Moore and Justin Marshall are listed as out on the availability report as of Wednesday night. Now,
Badger questionable too at wide receiver.
Yeah. Now, per Lane Kiffin rules, I'm just going to treat this availability report on Wednesday like it's nothing. I would like to see Devin Moore and Justin Marshall status change. If it doesn't, maybe I look at LSU. I'm not sure because right now I think they're in disarray and I think this is a terrible spot. Nussmeier has not been able to deal with pressure against this SEC schedule. His turnover-worthy play rate spikes from 1.9% to 6.5% when he has hands in his face. And the problem is, similar to Carson Beck and the Georgia offensive line, LSU's offensive line has allowed 31 of 96 pressures in the last 2 games against Alabama and Texas A&M. Sure, give credit to those defensive lines, but when a third of your pressures have come in the last 2 games, your offense is going backwards, especially if you have 2 tackles. They're going to be the first 2 taken offensive line-wise in the NFL draft. I don't understand what's going on here. Like Nussmeier still is not hitting deep shots. It's still a methodical offense, and he's getting a lot of pressure with the short release time. It's just a lot of bad things happening here. So I like Florida. We need Lagway. I'd like to see improvement on Devin Moore and Justin Marshall at corner.
San Jose State against Boise State. I love the Spartans here.
Yep.
Nick Nash, baby. It's Nick Nash season. 2 of the best group of 5 players in the country. Leading rusher, Ashton Genty, versus the leading receiver in Nick Nash. Boise State secondary is vulnerable. You have to throw in them. They're, I think outside the top 90 in EPA per pass. This San Jose State offense can do that. 2 good receivers led by Nash. Also, keep in mind, Boise's senior captain, starting safety, Tubner, green dot, everything on that day, quarterback of the defense.
He
went out last week. He was on crutches. I don't think he's going to play. It's a big loss, a big drop-off to his replacement. So I think San Jose State can keep up here. Their defense isn't great, but they do a good job of preventing explosive runs, which is important against Genty. And Genty's kind of just, he's maybe hitting a wall a bit. I know he had a big game last week, but the efficiency's ticked down. And I think a lot of that has to do with the offensive line injuries. Offensive line isn't healthy. Defense can be attacked. And if you look, Walker Eget, he's taken over a quarterback for San Jose State. He only has 3 touchdown passes to 6 interceptions, but he has 14 big-time throws to 6 turnover-worthy plays with a 15-yard ADOT, 14.7. That's number 1 among 150 quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks. You need that aggressiveness against this Boise State secondary. He's also much better under pressure than Emmett Brown. That's important because Boise can get after the quarterback. That's the strength of their day. Compare that. Eget, 14 to 6, big-time throw to turnover-worthy play rate. 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. Maddox Madsen, everyone gives him a lot of credit for taking care of the ball. He has 18 touchdowns, 3 picks. He has 4 big-time throws to 10 turnover-worthy plays with a much lower ADOT of like 9.5. Give me a couple picks. He's been doing. A couple drops. There's some picks maybe coming for Madsen. Boise State offense, they'll have success here, but I think San Jose State can keep up. They've also been unlucky on late downs on both sides of the ball, which are less predictive. The early down data suggests they're better than they actually have been. Boise State's getting everyone's best effort. This is San Jose State Super Bowl. Ken is a double-digit dog. I know a lot of that came against, when he's with Navy, with the Service Academy, but he's 1-0 against the spread. It's a double-digit dog this year when they almost beat Washington State, and that's aged pretty well. That game ended 54-52. I make this like 11.5, 11-8. Spartans for me. Wouldn't be surprised if they give Boise a scare here.
Yeah, I make it 12, and I think that's where this line's going to go once people figure out the injury situation for Boise.
Agree board?
Oh, absolutely. I wrote this up. This was the first thing I wrote on Monday. I was like, this is an easy one for me, like knowing which side I'm going to be on. Yeah, I did some digging. Maddox Madsen, he's had over 3 seconds time to throw, his release time over the last 2 games against Nevada and San Diego State. He's going to see quarters coverage against San Jose State. I think he's going to have some more problems in known passing situations. We'll see if Maddox Madsen can pick that up because it's going the wrong direction for him in passing downs. Genty, I would expect to run wild. I don't see anything in the San Jose State defense that says they're going to be able to stop him. He's within 1,000 yards of Barry Sanders' all-time single-season record. Outside zone is what Boise likes to run. They're number 1 in offensive finishing drives. San Jose State, 41% success rate in defending outside zone. They have limited explosives, but like I said, quarters coverage. We're going to put everybody back. We're going to make sure solo tackling. No one's going to be able to get by us. So
I think it's important, though, just like prevent Genty from breaking off the 70-yarders.
Yeah. But listen, the biggest handicap in this game is, Nick Nash is an animal, absolute animal. And what makes this play in this game? Nick Nash lines up 93% of snaps out of the slot. Who defends the slot? The strong safety. Who's the strong safety? Captain, 6th-year player, Alex Tebner, right? Who's not going to play in this game. You're off on crutches, lower body injury. I'm not even sure he's been listed out, but he's not coming back. So I like San Jose State to keep up-tempo offense coming in, 23 seconds per play. Nick Nash is going to get a target every single time. Again, drops back to pass. Best defender on the team is gone for Boise. San Jose State's keeping this within the number. I would just suggest everybody get the best number before it falls below 13.
Arizona State at Kansas State. I like the Wildcats here. I like it anything under 10. I bet them -8.5. I think you can, what's the market now? I think you can get better than that now because Scadaboo practiced and looks like he's going to play. Although it's not confirmed.
Right.
Is that now?
There's some 8s out. There's 9s and 8s. So
yeah, I bet 8.5. I like anything under 10. Look, Kenny Dillingham's done a great job, but the Sun Devils have been so lucky. They're 5-1 in 1 possession games, +7 turnover margin. They've also had a ton of breaks that don't even show up on box scores. Look at last week against UCF. They were outgained against UCF's third-string quarterback, 406 to 260. UCF missed 2 field goals, gave up a block punt for a touchdown, and threw an interception at the 1-yard line with 30 seconds, their own 1-yard line with 30 seconds to go in the half. That was returned for a touchdown. Unbelievable. UCF still had a chance to win, even with 2 non-offensive touchdowns, multiple missed field goals. Ridiculous. And Kansas State, by the way, they're coming in off of bye. They have the same record as Arizona State, but they've been much better, and they've had the much more difficult schedule. They've been unlucky, too. They lost to BYU in that game where they outgained them by over 120 yards, but they gave up 28 points in 3 minutes with a couple non-offensive touchdowns. They just lost to Houston. They were up 9 in the 4th quarter, outgained them by 100 yards, but had a turnover late. 2 late touchdowns for Houston to win that game, combined 60 yards of offense. Pretty unlucky. So, yeah, I think this Kansas State team, why do I really like them here? It's a great spot. I think Avery Johnson should be healthy. You unleash his legs here. This is your Big 12 lives on the line.
Yep.
This Arizona State defense, mediocre, pedestrian. National average is what I have it power rated at. Even if Scadaboo plays, and even if he's 100%, Kansas State's run D is elite.
Yep.
Their top 10 success rate, EPA per rush. So I think they can slow Scadaboo down. You have to attack Kansas State through the air. That's their weakness. I don't trust Sam Leavitt to do that consistently. And by the way, Kansas State, huge advantage on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Kleiman, 16-6 against the spread as a home favorite, covering by nearly 10 points per game. E-Mall, baby. Kansas State, I like by double digits.
Yeah, I think this was the first bet that I put in on Sunday openers. I tried to get Kansas State -6.5. That was gone. I think it was there for a couple seconds. I did not hesitate to fire on 7.5. And when you look at the cross matchup, the analytics, you'll see that Kansas State is number one in the nation in defensive rushing success rate. You're going to have to go a little bit farther to find out, like, does this justify enough for me to make this bet? Well, if you go to Arizona State, who runs the ball 62% of the time through Scatabo, you'll say, well, what kind of run concept do they run? It's almost all outside zone. When you flip over to Kansas State and look at what they do defensively, they have faced a lot of outside zone this year. They have a very high 59% success rate against outside zone. They produce a negative EPA for their opponents who are running outside zone. I have full confidence, whether Scadabo's there or not, that Arizona State element of running the ball is just not going to be there for them in this game. And when you talk about the special teams edge, 11th per SP plus for Kansas State, 128th for Arizona State. That's a punt. That's a kickoff. I will give credit to Kenny Dillingham. He's top 5 in the nation as a coach in middle 8 scoring, but I don't think that's going to be relevant here. But Kansas State all the way.
South Alabama at Louisiana. Louisiana off to a great start. The one thing that's kind of might hold them back is they have a loss to Tulane, who's also in the discussion for the college football playoff. They also need chaos to happen, like Boise losing, Army, but they're in the discussion. Regardless, I like South Alabama here. I think this is the peak of the market on Louisiana. I'm not fully sold on the Raging Cajuns. I also don't like their coach still. I like anything over a touchdown. It's trending going towards a touchdown everywhere.
Yeah.
I got 8.5, would go down to 7.5, maybe at 7, but nothing lower than that. I make it around 6-ish, 6.5. Louisiana, they've been good, but let's look at their 8 wins. Grambling, your Kennesaw State Owls, Wake by 3. Wake missed a field goal late. Southern missed by 10. App State by 10. Coastal Carolina by 10. Texas State by 6. When Texas State -2 turnover margin, their quarterback got hurt, and then they blew out Arkansas State. Like, everyone has been in the game against them, and their strength of schedule. I have it per my power ratings. Average, even if you remove Grambling, their 8 wins, average power rating 99th. Defensive rank 109th. So, I mean, their best wins are against Texas State by 6, and when their quarterback got hurt, and then Wake Forest, who missed a 42-yard field goal to tie it. The game was dead even statistically. And South Alabama, I just don't think there's that much difference between these teams. Yes, they're 4-5. But their losses, they've just been unlucky in close games. They lost to Ohio earlier this year, and Ohio is significantly better than I thought. But Gio Lopez ruled out before the game in that game. Their league losses were to Arkansas State on a last-second field goal and Georgia Southern after they blew a 30-16 fourth quarter lead, or a 30-14 fourth quarter lead. They were up by 16 in the fourth. Gio Lopez also went out of that game with a concussion. They've just been super unlucky. Raging Cajuns have been pretty fortunate with a bottom 20 schedule. I think they'll just be in this game. They can match Louisiana here. I mean, Louisiana's defense, 128th in overall success rate, 124th in tackles for loss. There's not going to be many negative plays here. I think South Alabama get his ground game going. That should set up everything for Lopez. His offensive line is bad, but he's not going to have to deal with overwhelming pressure in this matchup against Louisiana. So, yeah, I like South Alabama could easily, couple bounces, be playing for first place in this game. So I like South Alabama here to keep this close. Wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off the upset. Any thoughts here?
Put it on the board. So the Louisiana, I love Louisiana. I love Ben Woldridge. I love the entire program. The win that what they've been able to do right now, they're undefeated in the conference standings. I don't think they really believe that they have a shot at making the college football playoff with an 8-1 record. The victory on the road against Texas State a couple weeks ago pretty much gave them a huge cushion. I mean, and they went on to just boat race Arkansas State, which could play out in tiebreakers. But if you look at the standings, they have a 2-game lead over everybody in the West. Now, they'll have a tiebreaker over Arkansas State no matter what. They have a tiebreaker over Texas State no matter what. They have a 2-game lead essentially over South Alabama. Even if they drop this game, they'll host Troy and then go to ULM. I seriously doubt they're sweating those 2 games. I'm not saying Louisiana is going to quit in this game, But there's no urgency here. The urgency is all on South Alabama in this game. And then when you go and look at the analytics of the offenses and the defenses, Louisiana's dead last in the nation in defensive rushing success rate. They're 121st in defensive line yards.
128 tackles for loss, and that's South Alabama's weakness is their offensive line. So that they're going to be able to move the ball here.
Am I reading this right? They're dead last in giving up rush explosives. Yeah, just put this shit on the board. It's going to be in the round robin.
Yeah, Louisiana defense is bad, and they played a bottom 15 schedule. South Alabama, huge game for their postseason aspirations because they get a free win next week against Southern Miss. That would get them to 6 if they win this game. But they close out the season against Texas State, which certainly isn't a gimme. One final one before we get to quarterback news. Sparty first half against Illinois. Sparty off the bye. Jonathan Smith. All have a good script. That's all I'll say. I worry about their secondary and Illinois coming back and being able to throw on them. So I don't like them full game. But first half, script will be good. Quarterback news. Nico, questionable. Who knows? Mayava getting the start for USC. Miller Moss, he gone. I don't know what to make of that USC-Nebraska game. You had a new offensive coordinator, Dana Holgerson for Nebraska, and a new quarterback for USC. Maybe Nebraska money line with the variance. I don't know. You got nothing there?
Nothing there. This is a game I don't want. One of these teams is making a bowl game. I'll recollect their resumes when we get there.
Raiola should be good to go for Nebraska. Eli Holstein, is he going to play for Pitt?
I saw probable.
Probable?
Yeah.
He's had a couple of head injuries, though, in the last couple of weeks. I think that line's about right against Clemson. We'll get to Taylon Green. Lagway, questionable. I think he's going to play. Brady Cook, still doubtful, right? Doesn't look like he's going to go. Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of like the under there.
Doubtful. On Wednesday night, he's doubtful. per Lane Kiffin rules, let's check back on Friday. But yeah, he's listed as doubtful.
By the way, Pitt, the one thing that's really hurting their offense, which has regressed hard, I mean, one luck, but their offensive line's been a mess. They lost to Taylor and Jacoby on the left side of their offensive line during that Cal game. Hasn't been the same since. Do you have anything in South Carolina, Missouri? I kind of like the under there.
Yeah,
how's Missouri going to do anything?
I mean, I don't know how you can play the side if Missouri's not going to. I mean, whoever's starting at quarterback against the South Carolina defensive front, I think the under is the play. But it's hard. It's hard to handicap what Missouri is offensively right now.
I mean, they just got lucky last week. I think that after that win, that the defense will show up. This is still a limited South Carolina offense. It's assuming Cook doesn't play. It's still Drew Pine. Cooper also is questionable for them. Utah, we already mentioned, Rose out for the year. UMass we'll get to. Oregon State we'll get to. West Virginia we'll get to. Cam Fancher out for the year. Wiseman, their backup, was banged up too. Maybe he goes. Maybe it Starks. They're dogs at Temple. Gross. If you watch that game,
I can't even do it. I can't even pull the trigger on it either. I can't do it.
That is horrific.
They're not even in our trash, are they? Is there a layer below the trash for Temple of Florida Atlantic?
Yes, that's where it is. You keep an eye on UConn. Evers, they have a bye, but Evers or Fagnano, they paid Evers, they want to play him, but Fagnano's better right now and came in and led him back to victory last week. I don't know what's going on there. That's something worth watching. Virginia Tech in the future. Drones and Schlee are apparently both banged up. Schlee came in last week. I don't know what's going on there. New Mexico State. Good luck at Texas A&M. Even though I'm sure Texas A&M doesn't want to show anything here with Auburn and Texas coming up, but Marucci and Nunez will continue to split time. One throws it ineffectively. The other just tries to battering ram ahead. I don't know what's going on there. They stink. I can't believe they got in the back door. Marucci got in the back door to screw you last week. Yeah. All right, before we get to some trash, it is Tin Horn weekend, so we got to get a Saban clip in here. Mercer at Bama, I can't play it. It's not a great spot for Bama. I'm sure they don't want to run Milroe, right? So their offense probably isn't going to be as effective. But Mercer's 9-1. They play their new coach came from Lenore Ryan. They want to spread you out. They recently made a quarterback change to the freshman. They're playing well, but they also just clinched the playoff berth. Right. College football. They're going to the college football playoff. Why do they want to risk anything here, right? So they might sit guys.
Alabama first quarters against anybody. I don't care if it's an NFL team. Just give me a spread in an Alabama first quarter because they're just murdering it on both sides of the ball with the script.
Yeah, and then I'm sure they're just going to want to get out healthy. And it's not like their backup quarterbacks are great. Um, so yeah, I don't mind first quarter.
Kalen's got some work to do on the recruiting trail in the portal.
Kentucky hosting Murray State. So Mary's the opposite. Murray lost earlier this year, 52-0 to Missouri. I'm sure this is like a get right game for Kentucky. Like they have a lot of frustrations they want to take out. But I think they might be going with this freshman at quarterback. Like I think he's gonna start. And he's like a 3-star. Cutter Boley. I think Cutter Boley's gonna start in this game. And he was like a Lexington Catholic kid. No, he's a 4-star. Okay, he's a little better than I thought. I don't really know much about him because it's Murray State is so bad. I mean, you want to look, it's Kentucky or nothing, but
yeah,
I can't bet this game. Murray State, though, is you look at their scores, they are horrifying. They lost their last game 59. They gave up 59 to Missouri State. They lost to South Dakota State 52-6. North Dakota State 59-6. They gave up 40 to Illinois State. 59-0 to South Dakota. They lost to North Dakota 72-35. I mean, whew. And then 51-0 to Missouri. Yeah, this is probably like 44-3 or something like that. All right. Let's get to some trash. All right, trash 12-5 on the year. We're going to start off with UMass. UMass plus 14.5, baby, against Liberty. Liberty stinks, people. I don't know how many times I got to tell you that. Also, why do they care about this game? They were supposed to go to the college football playoff. They're not. They're already out of it. Their only hope is to win their conference. They got to win their final 2 games and get some help. They starting with Western Kentucky next week. They're going to UMass. Why would they care about this game? UMass quarterback out. I don't think it's a big drop off to Haston, or they might go with you might see some of the freshmen too. I don't care. This line's too high, number one. I make it closer to like 11.5. And this is an awful spot for Liberty, who they just don't. They've had injuries all over. The passing attack doesn't have any juice. I'm sure Cooley will get his on the ground. But this is a UMass team that's been competitive. Like, they have a higher ceiling this year. Look at their 3 MAC road games. Northern Illinois lost in overtime. Or no, Miami of Ohio. They lost in overtime. At Miami of Ohio. Lost in overtime. And that's pretty impressive. They outplayed Toledo at Toledo. And they were right there with Northern Illinois. So they have a higher ceiling than they have in years past. They have better depth. So, yeah, coming off a bye here, I like it. Agree or disagree?
Pat, this UMass.
And Chapel doesn't run up the score. He doesn't. So if it's like sitting at 14, he takes knees. He's 12-20 against the spread, by the way, as a favorite of more than 10 points. That's part of that.
UMass
You're passing?
Yeah, UMass has the ability to cover the entire game, and then something stupid happens at the end, and then 129th in special teams, something stupid happens at the end, and they don't cover. So, but pass for me. I'm not defending Liberty either. I agree with you; it's too high.
Air Force. We're going Air Force. What's it at now? 3.5. That's fine. Anything over 3. Oregon State, I think, is a corpse. They are reeling right now. They are not getting better. And they went to a new quarterback, Ben Goldbertson. He doesn't fit this offense. He came to Corvallis for Jonathan Smith in a pro-style offense. This is Ben Goldbertson's offense, which is they need a dual threat. He's not that. How many times can you throw it to Trent Walker? I mean, that's their offense. The rushing attack was the strength, but Hankerson's starting to wear down because Bam has been hurt. This offense is just a mess right now. I don't know what's going on. They don't have an identity. And then most importantly, Their defense is horrific. They cannot defend the run. 130th rush success rate and EPA per rush allowed. They're one of 10 teams in the country allowing more than 5.5 yards per carry. Well, that's a problem against Army. Army ran at 80, excuse me, that's a problem against Air Force. Air Force ran it 80 times last week against Fresno in an upset win. They could do that this week, just 3 yards at a time against this Oregon State D that cannot stop the run. Oregon State has 32 tackles for loss on the season. Only Georgia State and Temple have fewer. So, look, Air Force, they were really bad, but I think they're actually starting to improve. Kellen's a good coach. They had to completely reset their roster. They got the best quarterback under center to run the triple option now. And Air Force has only been a home dog in the month of November 5 times since 2010 under Calhoun. Won all 5 outright, including last week's win over Fresno State. I think Air Force trending up, Oregon State trending down. Good matchup for the Air Force rushing attack and the Oregon State offense identity crisis. Give me the Falcons at home.
Love. Put it on the board. Quentin Hayes took over this Air Force offense a couple of weeks ago, and now you got Calhoun and fullback Dylan Carlson telling everybody in the media, anyone that'll listen, he is our field general. He is our team leader. We are a different team. You can look back to last week. You mentioned 80 times they rushed against Fresno. They were only stuffed on 17% of attempts. 9 offensive possessions. 5 of them were methodical. You're only supposed to have like 1 methodical possession like every 8 possessions. That's national average. They had 5. The Air Force offense, I believe, is back. Now, I know everybody runs on Oregon State like crazy. I mean, we watched Colorado State do it. We watched a lot of teams do it. This is one of the worst rush defenses in the nation. They haven't seen anything on their schedule close to the triple option. The Oregon State defensive coordinator, Keith Hayward, on prep, he said, well, I played them once when I played at UNLV. Like, there is no triple option prep for Oregon State going on whatsoever. And their defensive coordinator saw it with his eyes when he was on the field. It was mentioned to him in his little quick press conference that he had. I'm like, do you have any experience? Like, is UNLV's go-go offense, is that any kind of help to this offense? And he's like, no, it's fullback dive, it's pitch, it's keeper. We don't know, this is all new concepts that we're getting ready for this week. And that's when I kind of sat back and I was like, this week, everybody that has service academies on their schedule starts working on this shit in the summer. Like, you're worried about it this week. So Oregon State, they're rolling off. And look at this style, right? So Stuck talks about how one team is hot and one team is not. Oregon State is coming off of a game where they played one of the most pass-happy, fast tempo offenses in the nation in San Jose State. You're going to turn around and play the slowest on the ground with a triple option in Army. I'm sorry.
They're also reeling. Their season's going nowhere. Are they going to have the focus and care during the week to prep for the triple option? I have my doubts.
San Jose State generated a 50% success rate and 18 rushing attempts and put up 8.7 yards per play. I'm sorry. If that's what San Jose State's ground attack is doing, you have no chance, like a Vince McMahon, no chance in hell that you are going to stop this rushing attack. So, yeah, we're there.
Last one, Northwestern against Ohio State. It's too many points. I'm taking over 4 touchdowns. That's all this comes down to. Northwestern has like a top 30-ish D coming off a bye. Ohio State's been pretty fortunate in the red zone. Like, someone's going to score on them eventually. They lead the nation in points per trip allowed. I don't think Northwestern's offense is going to have much success, but I don't think Ohio State's going to care that much here. They have Indiana on deck. You don't want to show anything. Indiana's on a bye. I'm going to be watching Ohio State. Too many points. Maybe some win. This game's at Wrigley. For what it's worth, conference home dogs catching 30+ since 2020, 10-3 against the spread. Since 2010, by the way, in conference games with a spread of 30+, I know this has come down a bit, but when I bet it, it was there. Just when I took these notes, the spread 30+ total 46 or less. The over has gone 36-8. But yeah, super low total here. I think if Northwestern scores 1 touchdown, they cover. Give me the Cats.
This will be a pass. First off, I'm not going to fade you. But the number one rule is I'm not fading any teams in November that are in a beauty pageant for the college football playoff, and that would be Ohio State. Because if there's an extra kick to make or there's an extra score to make, it's going to happen. So I'm not getting in the way of this either way. Not in front of you, not in front of Ohio State.
All right, let's talk some Arkansas football. Arkansas will hosting Texas I like Arkansas. Curious to get your thoughts here. Sammy Pittman, double-digit dog. By the way, he's 22-10 against the spread as a dog, 68.8%, 10-3 when catching double digits. Whenever you don't expect anything from Arkansas, whenever you think that they're completely overmatched, this is when Pittman covers. Coming off a bye, two good coordinators. And are we 100% sure Texas is in the elite tiers, which would required to be laying 2 touchdowns here at Arkansas? Who have they? Where are their rock solid data points? What is their best win? By 3 at Vandy, at Michigan. Is that those are their best wins? There's 8 teams ranked in the top 25 in the SEC. Texas has played 1, and they got blown out at home by Georgia. That's it. Strength of schedule outside the top 50 nationally. They also got to play Florida with like their a third string Yale quarterback and their entire team out. They only beat Vandy by 3, and they got blown out by Georgia. I mean, this resume is terrible. Arkansas, we've seen the highs and lows. Their secondary is a mess. Yeah, I mean, Pittman's holding open tryouts. Who knows who's going to be out there? I'm sure Texas will move the ball, but I think Arkansas can keep up. I'm assuming Green's going to be healthy. I'm assuming the backfield's going to be healthier. Give me the Hogs.
Yeah, I disagree. You can put it on the board. As a matter of fact,
Head to
head. But you know what? We had to talk about.
I'm on the Hogs, and you're on Texas.
Now we should talk about the number because as we've been doing the podcast, this thing dropped to 12.5, but we can make it 13.
Whoa!
Yeah, we can make it 13 for the. Hey, it's just money.
No, I need 14.
14. It's 12.5. Why would I make it 13? And let's get on the board.
Oh, it's not a 12 now.
Well, yeah, put
fine.
a 13 on the
Fine,
board
for the head-to-head. You gave me Nevada. You went. You obliged, so I'll oblige.
Yeah.
I'm on Arkansas. You're on Texas. We'll call it 13.
Yeah, somebody walked into the Westgate with a big fucking stash and knocked it down to 12, and now everybody else is reacting.
Maybe they rode a motorcycle there.
So, listen, I have problems with this game. I have a lot of problems with this game, and we'll see how it works out. It wouldn't be the first time I faded Arkansas and it's gone right or it's gone wrong. But, oh, by the way, I think Pittman heard us on the new BCS with Brett. Because he was asked in the press conference, very first question, like, are you retiring at the end of the season because of your hip? And he said, no, just to let everybody know, I'm having hip replacement surgery the day after the Missouri game. I'll be back for the transfer portal and if we make a bowl. So I don't know if like our new BCS made it to the Razorbacks beat reporters, but he was asked first thing Wednesday morning. Listen, I have problems here with Arkansas. There's just big time issues for the Arkansas offense in terms of havoc allowed here. Talon Green, he's been popped twice in against LSU and Ole Miss for scooping scores. That's a problem. The offensive line has been extremely efficient, so bad that Patrick Kudus at left guard now has an "or" next to his name on the depth chart. He's been terrible in pass blocking alongside left tackle Francisco Carmona, the transfer in from San Jose State. This offensive line has not gotten anything done from pass blocking, from rushing. The good news is Jaquindon Jackson's fully healthy, ready to go. Talon Green, fully healthy, ready to go. That's
what you need. You need Green running around.
You do. He has to run around because the blocking's just not been there for them whatsoever. The defense is where I have a problem stuck. For Pittman to say out loud on Monday that every single position in the secondary is up for grabs and up for competition. Jaden Johnson is the only one who is secure in his safety position. All the other positions in Travis Williams' secondary are up for grabs, up for competition. So, I mean, there's even third stringers listed on the depth chart. Isaiah Bond, Ryan Wingo, Matthew Golden, the ones that are out at the wideout position, they get flares, they get dump offs, they get wide receiver screens from Quinn Ewers. That's a problem for Arkansas. They're 123rd in creating contested catches. I don't think that changes here. So I'm not seeing it defensively. I understand Travis Williams shut down Tennessee, but we've had questions about Tennessee's offense since then, about Nico and just a magnet to sacks. And by the way, Sark has been waiting for this game. He mentioned it in the preseason. He mentioned it at other various points this season, and he talked about it on Monday. It was an embarrassing performance by him and the team when they came to Fayetteville in 2021. I think that was like, game 2 of his entire tenure at Texas? They got blown out of the water by Pittman. So I'm just seeing this way differently than the money. I'm seeing it differently than all the other people I respect. I get it. I know what you guys are looking at. But the secondary is atrocious for Arkansas, and the offensive line is bad. I can't back that. And if Sark's got an axe to grind, that's a problem too. So I'm on Texas here.
Woo, pig suey, baby. Going head to head again.
We're going to a bowl after La Tech, though. That's going to be great.
You're going to a bowl after this weekend. Hogs outright. Woo pig suey. Before we go three and out, nowhere fast. This is a Friday night game. San Diego State at UNLV. Gross.
Yeah.
How many times is San Diego State going to try to hand it to Cooper? I don't know. I hate watching San Diego State. Um, Over or under here?
Over. Not big and not a huge play, but you know, I project it right around where it's at. I think we're going to go over here. The San Diego State, terrible success rate numbers in rushing and passing, but they are top 35 in EPA. There's going to be some explosives they can get on UNLV. That has been the Aztecs game the entire year. Is there any stopping the go-go here? I don't think so. Rush explosives from Jaden Thomas, Haj Malik Williams. They have been everything to the Rebels. San Diego State is 128th defensively in line yards and 133 in stuff rate. The go-go should get everything they want at the line of scrimmage. Tempos are going to be fast. I think scoring is going to be fast. We'll go with the over.
All right. Before we get out of here, let's go three and out. All right, let's go three and out. Friday night lights. I'll start off. I like Wyoming plus
I do
10
too. Yeah.
against Colorado State. They got Whaley back. They're coming off a bye. Caden Anderson, much better at quarterback than Svoboda. He played two really bad defenses in New Mexico and Utah State, but we saw Svoboda against Utah State. He was 2 of 7, 14 yards and a pick. Anderson came in, almost won that game. Wyoming's been competitive in league play. Like they've been in almost every game. Got Whaley back. That's huge. This Colorado State team, they beat Air Force, New Mexico, and Nevada in basically statistically even games. They were plus 7 turnovers in those games. They've gone from a bottom 5 run rate to a top 25, by the way. Just feed Marshall and Morrow. But I think it's peak of the market on Colorado State. Big border war here. Big rivalry. I like pokes.
Yeah, I like Wyoming too. You can put it on the board. There's 2 10s out there, so we can put our grade against that. I would like one of the more prominent national books to have that before I put it in the app. But Caden Anderson, 5 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, 3 TDs and INT last week. Listen, it was his first start. It was a tremendous first start, but the big news is Harrison Whaley. Whaley, man, we cut a Mountain West pod, and all I could talk about was Svoboda running zone read with Whaley. I thought that was going to be something that could dominate in Mountain West. Well, Whaley finally returned. 27 rushing attempts, 170 yards, and a score. It was his first game of the season. I think stuck from here, the last couple games, you take Wyoming's offensive numbers and you chuck them. It's a new season for this offense. I'm with you on Wyoming.
North Texas at UTSA. I got nothing here. I think I saw you put a bet in. I'm not betting North Texas games.
I put in UTSA on the app. I do want the over. 72.5 is a little bit hard to take pregame. I think you throw out the Army score with North Texas and the wasted opportunities, because before that, there was 4 straight games where they scored over 72 points. UTSA, they're in defense optional mode. They had 80-point games with Memphis and Tulsa. So there's going to be a lot of scoring here. I think if you can take UTSA at a +1 or maybe get a good looking money line, you can come back on the other side with North Texas. But I think UTSA, their offense is going to be able to get whatever they want with Owen McCown from an EPA perspective, from an explosive pass perspective. I see it more in their numbers than I knew in North Texas. So I'm going to take the Roadrunners. I will be looking live, not just for an over, but also to come back in on North Texas.
If I bet UTSA, North Texas will score every single time in the red zone after last week. Pass. UCLA at Washington. I like Washington. I want UCLA to take some money. Would love a 3. But Washington, different team at home. They're undefeated there. UCLA can't run the ball. Their offense is playing better. They're playing better overall, but it's garbage chucking around. You can't throw in Washington. This is a good matchup. Washington is so matchup specific. Can the other team run the ball? If they can, they're going to move the ball. If they can't, they're not. UCLA can't. I think UCLA reached peak of their market here. I show value in the number. I like the Huskies. You got anything there?
It's that reason. It's Washington's defense why I want to take the under. I'm leaning on the under. I might put it in the app. Washington's defense, number 2 in defensive passing success rate, 9th in creating contested catches, and that comes against a UCLA offense that loves to chuck the ball all the time. The problem is once UCLA gets into scoring position, bottom 5 nationally in finishing drives. Listen, the Washington offense is also bottom 10 nationally in creating rush or pass explosives. There's just nothing big coming out of them. And UCLA D is actually top 5 in preventing rush explosives. I mean, you don't expect that out of the Huskies offense, but there's a lot of avenues here where there's no scores. Even Washington's offensive finishing drive is 117th. I lean to the under here. I'm not really sure why I haven't played it other than it's kind of a short number.
I think Washington can efficiently move the ball through the air, which you can do against UCLA. Houston at Arizona. I think Arizona's dead. There's rumors about Brennan being out if they lose this game. You got to buy him out. Why don't you just keep Fish? Arizona is a mess. They've covered one game all year. Uh, they're where do I start? I mean, their defenders that are out for the year: Maldonado, their best safety; Stukes, one of their best corners; Manu, their best linebacker. They lost three of them, and then from last year's team, they lost Irby at linebacker. He was important. They lost Prysock at corner. He was important to Washington. They lost their nose tackle Norton to Texas. Their DN Ward to Washington. Davis to Washington. Manoa to the NFL. Upshaw graduate. They lost their entire defensive line. They lost their three best defenders to injury. What's left? You got Davis at one corner spot, and then Trey Smith, the transfer from San Jose State. That's it. This defense is done. It's decimated. How about offense? Their offensive line is nothing. Like there's nothing left. Polito was supposed to be Jordan Morgan's successor, an NFL tackle. Got drafted. Well, he left the team for personal reasons. Your new left tackle, he got hurt. He's out for the year. So they moved the right tackle there. Now the new right tackle is a disaster. Their left guard, Magnuson, he had concussion issues. He's out for the year. They're moving guys all over. It's a disaster. The scheme is much worse. Play action rate way down. They don't have the second receiver. Cowing is gone. McLaughlin at tight end is gone. It's just throw the ball to Tat McMillan. That's it. Houston, really well-coached defensive team. Can't run on them. Double team McMillan. Take away Arizona's offense. This Arizona team's a corpse.
Are you joining me or not?
I bet Houston. Yeah, I bet Houston.
Oh, I bet Houston too. Yeah, get that thing on the board. Yeah, Zion. I'll do the other
money line.
Yeah, you hear that, everybody? Interim Dino Babers. I'll do the other side of the ball. Like I like Houston's offense. I mean, they've won 3 of their last 4. They have scorched everybody's preseason total under, which I had the over, and it's such a relief to get that in Willie Fritz's first year. If you look at Zion Chris, 3-1 as a starter, he's only committed 3 turnover-worthy plays and 65 dropbacks so far. He's just destroyed teams on the ground. 111 yards against TCU, 99 last week against Kansas State. Arizona has been horrific against inside zone, which is what Houston runs. Only a 40% success rate and a negative EPA. Let's go Cougs.
By the way, make sure you check out the Group of 5 guys. Their episode's out now, Mike and Mike. They always do a great job. Second down, favorite overdog. I'm going to go Baylor. Baylor on the road at West Virginia. Anything under a field goal is fine. But Baylor's playing very well. I mean, they've made a change at left tackle. They found some balance in the run game with the freshmen. But they're going to be able to throw on this West Virginia team. West Virginia, they won. I know they won at Cincy last week. It was a gifted win. They were awful. And their other win came against the corpse of Arizona. I don't buy this team. Their secondary can't stop anybody. I don't care if it's Green or Markio at quarterback. Baylor trending up. I like the Bears on the road coming off the bye. How about you?
Yeah, Penn State all the way. I'll take the beauty pageant contestants in this overdog for the remainder of the year. Look at beauty pageants last week. Ohio State 45-0, Texas 49-17, Penn State 35-6 over Washington, Notre Dame 52-3. Listen, Purdue gave up 50 points to the offenses of Illinois and Wisconsin. Penn State can do the same here. And there's no analytics that says Purdue can have any kind of resistance against Penn State. So it's steaming, by the way. I'd stop at 31.
All right, let's go third down. Our money line underdog parlay. Give me Old Dominion. I was wrong about this team. This team's been good. The Colton Joseph, he's been great at quarterback since taking over, even led him to an impressive road win at Bowling Green when he came in. There's a lot of familiarity here. Kevin Decker and Bob Chesney from their days in the Patriot League. Yep. But that might provide Old Dominion with an edge because they're coming off of a bye here. Important game for them to get to bowl eligibility. Both these teams are like 7 to 8% to get to the conference title, probably out of reach. But I mean, look, I'm at JMU, top of the market here. They beat Southern Miss and Georgia State, and that Georgia State game is one of the best situational spots of the season, as you pointed out. And like Old Dominion, they lost at App State. They had 500 yards. They were -3 turnover margin. They outgained them by 100. JMU's market, I think the market perception of them is inflated because of a couple blowout losses on the road in conference. They lost outright as a favorite against UL Monroe and Georgia Southern, and they scored 33 combined points. They also have a +18 turnover margin on the year. That leads all of FBS. There's some regression coming there. I think if you spread out this JMU team, which ODU certainly will, you can move the ball on them. So Barnett has regressed as the season has gone on and teams have gotten tape on him. I like ODU. Ricky Ronnie, all he does is win as a dog. He's 22-12 against the spread as a dog, 15-6 in league play, 10 outright upsets in 21 tries with an average spread of 9. I think the Monarchs win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Air Force here in our money line underdog parlay. Listen, just go back to the trash segment. I won't repeat everything I said, but Quentin Hayes has taken over this team. Air Force, they are now an efficient triple option club that everybody, the head coach and the fullback, everybody respects him as the field general. And I just cannot get over Oregon State's defensive coordinator. Zero experience against the triple and is just now trying to learn how to defend it. Ooh, Air Force.
All right, fourth down before we get out of here. Board review. Agree. 24-13 on the air. We have Kansas, San Jose State, South Alabama, Air Force, Wyoming, and Houston. Wyoming and Houston on Friday night. So we have 4 on Saturday, 2 on Friday. Head to head. Woo Pig Suey, baby. I'm on Arkansas. Colin's on Texas. And then the trash, UMass, Air Force, and Northwestern. That'll do it for us.
Sark and I will still be friends.
Hogs outright. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Colin for joining me. Thanks to our producer on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. 959 Bad Beat voicemail. Recap episode will be on Monday. Live show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, Saturday. Myself, Colin, Mike Calabrese, Brett McMurphy. Make sure you tune in there. I already mentioned the group of 5 guys. We'll do it all again next week. New BCS, that's always fun. That'll be out early next week as well. Talk college football playoff futures, all that good stuff. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. You know the drill. Leave us a 5-star review. Those always really help us out. Go to our YouTube channel, BBOC, hit subscribe there. That helps us. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's keep it rolling in week 12. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you Saturday. Cheers.
Peace out.